Chapter 2. There was silence. Bolt turned and looked to Max and Anna. Both of them had wide eyes full of fear, but he steeled himself. He called out in response to the voice that had ordered their surrender.
Dalek vessel, this is Commander Andrew Bolt of the Eden Alliance. We are here by mistake. This was not planned, he said,
but the voice interrupted him. "Oh, so you just happened to infiltrate our perimeter with barely a blip on our scanners by mistake," said the voice, with what Bolt perceived to be sarcasm. He ignored the derision and responded.
We were avoiding fuel consumption by traveling in cryogenic suspension, hence no energy rating. You presumably detected us upon reactivation,
Andrew said. Keep them talking, he thought. Buy time. Time for what? Asked a voice in his head. No idea, he replied mentally. And yet you ended up here, so either you're lying or you're incompetent, taunted the voice.
I may be incompetent, but I know a Dalek when I hear one, and right now I don't. Who are you? Bolt asked.
I am General Ryuk of the Dalek Empire, and whether you are here by accident or design, that does not change the fact that you are here. I say again, surrender or be exterminated. A tear was falling from Anna's eye, she was that scared. Bolt bit his lip. What the hell, he thought to himself. If you're gonna go, go with a bang. This ship didn't have much in the way of armaments, but their opponent was merely a scouting vessel.
Cut communications and arm repulsor cannons.
Anna cut the communications. Max prepared to arm the small armaments they had. You sure about this, man?
Not really, said Bolt.
Meanwhile, on board the Dalek spacecraft, the imposing figure of Ryuk stood behind two Daleks. Their purple and grey casings gleamed, with their crescent moon symbols clearly visible on their domes. One of the Daleks swiveled its eye stalk towards the armoured general.
The human vessel is preparing to fire,
said the Dalek in a grating voice. Well, he really is incompetent. Scan their ship. What capabilities do they have? Ryuk ordered. The Dalek complied, its eye stalk analysing its findings.
Sensors detect energy repulsor cannons and primitive ballistic projectiles,
reported the Dalek. Ryuk smirked. The latter would be useless in space, but repulsor weapons were quite potent when used effectively. Ryuk was about to speak again, as the weapons fired upon them. The ship shook subtly, but that was all. Damage report? Asked Ryuk.
Negligible,
said the other Dalek. Ready Mega Blast-eyed missiles. Prepare to fire, Ryuk commanded.
I obey,
replied the Dalek. Ryuk saw with surprise that the human ship was now making a hasty getaway. It was turning tail and attempting to flee Dalek space. Nice try, thought Ryuk, but the Emperor had ordered the intruders either captured or destroyed, and Ryuk did not plan on failing.
Human vessel is attempting to escape,
a Dalek said. I can see that, Ryuk snapped. Lock in pursuit course.
We obey,
chorused both Daleks. A moment later, Lex glided in.
General, what is happening?
He asked. The humans think they can run, but they played their hand too soon. They already admitted to having no hyperdrive capabilities. This is merely a game of cat and mouse now.
Cat and mouse,
Lex said quizzically. The Daleks also made to pursue the human vessel. Ryuk noted that they were passing a small planetoid, not even large enough to be a moon. No sooner had he spotted it, did he notice the ship was heading straight for it. They're trying to land. Let's make sure it's a bumpy ride. Fire a single missile at their thrusters, no more.
I obey,
replied a Dalek. A moment later, a missile fired from the Dalek ship and headed towards the humans.
With respect, General, why a single missile? We could easily have destroyed them with two,
asked Lex. I want to capture and interrogate them. I have a feeling there's more to their arrival here, and they may make useful slaves. We can always use more slaves, Lex.
Understood,
replied Lex, satisfied. At that moment, the missile struck the human ship with a loud bang.
Direct hit,
reported a Dalek. As the explosion subsided, Ryuk saw the small vessel spiraling towards the planetoid in multiple pieces. Even just the one missile had completely mangled the human's hull integrity. Prepare to land, Ryuk ordered. On board the human vessel, steam and fires were erupting from their consoles on the bridge. One such explosion had struck Anna and rendered her unconscious. Andrew jumped over his console and checked on her. Max, who was attempting to steer the ship, in vain, asked, She alive? Bolt checked her pulse and nodded. I can't steer. I've lost all control. We're going to crash any second, Max cried out. Through the viewport, the planetoid could be seen. Its landscape was rocky and pitted. It would not be a soft landing, thought Andrew to himself. What's more, There probably wasn't much of an atmosphere. The moment the vacuum seal of their ship was broken and exposed to its elements, they may all be dead from asphyxiation, radiation poisoning, or something even worse. A jagged point of rock collided with the ship and split the bridge right through the middle. Bolt, who was still holding Anna, watched in horror as half of the ship with Max inside merely peeled away, his screams fading into the distance.
Max!
Cried out Bolt, and the next moment the rest of the ship collided with the ground, and all was black. In a pitted cave-like structure, a hooded figure hobbled out. It looked on at the wreckage of the human ship. Smoke rose from it. The figure hobbled towards the wreckage. It had clawed hands, and rooted through the bent and battered metal. Lying a small distance away from the wreckage lay Max Cooper. His arm was bent at an odd angle, and his head was covered in blood. But he was alive, and groaned in pain. The hooded figure turned towards the wounded human. It hobbled towards it. Max's blood-covered eyelids flickered open.
Commander? Andrew?
He called out weakly. There was no response. Instead, he heard what could only be described as panting, and a whispery voice was in his ear.
"Stay still. You are badly injured," it said.
Who are you?
Max asked. His vision was so blurry he could barely make out the hooded figure, who picked him up as if he weighed nothing, and carried him into the cave. A mile or two away, in an equally damaged mass of wreckage, was the other half of the human ship. Bolt winced and wiped blood off of his forehead. He had been knocked out whilst protecting the prone form of Anna, who was still comatose. He looked out of the split in the bridge, at the bereft, craggy land before him. It was a total mystery. This planetoid, which didn't even have a name, was now where he was trapped, and unable to escape. He knew there was a large chance that the Daleks would search for survivors. What he didn't expect was a loud, sorrowful howl that rang out over the rocky dunes. They were not alone, thought Andrew.